Hello my fair friends, I'm Ruby Ruse, this is Baby Bunny, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. I saw a video done by Beanbag Hagwag, who's one of my favorite YouTube artists on esoteric and magical and pagan themes. And she did her March Depth Year update with a little bit on COVID-19 too, and I was just so struck by the rawness of her video and the honesty. This is an emotional time, and she really inspired me to get back on YouTube because I've been gone. I'm sure you've noticed that I'm dressed quite differently, and I really first want to address that. When I created Fairy Fortunes, the wings, the glitter, the markings, all of that, I know that it comes across looking like a costume. But for me, I feel like that is my true form. That's not a costume. This, to me, is the costume. And the reason I'm not dressed like that is actually I was injured. I don't like talking about my occupation, what I do for income in the mundane world, because usually it just takes over the conversation, and I want to be seen as something beyond my job. But once I make mention of my job, then that's all people see when they look at me. And like I said, this is the costume. The glitter, the wings, that's who I am. Who I am. Who I am is somebody that has great compassion, sees hope and joy in the world, who is generous and youthful and frivolous and fun-loving. Sorry. This is times being what they are. They're really, really emotional times, aren't they? So the reality is that in the mundane world, I'm a police officer. And so I'm sure that you can now appreciate why I don't like talking about that, because when you think of a police officer, certainly fairy wings and glitter and compassion and frivolity are not what you think of when you think of that in a profession. And definitely my coworkers, the word that they use to describe me is meticulous. And I think Beanbag Hagwag would say that I am meticulous, because she made mention that one of the things that she likes about me is how well researched all of my videos are. So thank you for that comment, Trish. I really appreciate that. So I guess I am meticulous as here on Fairy Fortunes too, but when they say meticulous, they mean like headsy and serious. That's what they mean. So in February, I was injured at work. And I don't look injured, do I? I don't look at all injured. But the reality is that I'm actually in a lot of pain. Well, not a lot of pain. I would liken it to having like a low-grade fever. It's just enough pain where I feel crappy all the time. So that was in February, and I at that time I was in so much pain, and I could not move my right arm, and I'm actually right-handed. And when you're a police officer, you actually are not allowed to work if you've injured your head or your arm, and I'll get into it in just a minute. Your dominant hand, they won't let you work at all, because you have to be able to use the tools of your occupation, which of course includes, here in the United States, we're armed. So if you cannot use your weapon, you are not allowed to work at all. And while I don't define myself, while I would like to say that I don't define myself by my mundane occupation as a police officer, the reality is that that occupation does kind of take over who you are. And if you're not out there on the front lines, you feel worthless. So the first couple of weeks that I was off, I really couldn't do anything. I couldn't even brush my hair. I couldn't really even shower. Which was really hard for me, because I really enjoy my glitter and my makeup and clothing and that kind of thing. So I really couldn't do any of that. And I wasn't filming any videos because I really didn't have the dexterity where I could actually handle the camera and that kind of thing. So I was pretty much shut down. I couldn't cook. It was awful. And then, sorry, then the epidemic hit. And all I could think of was, I should be out there. Because all of the people that I work with are risking their lives. Every day they risk their lives, but now they could get sick. And their families could get contaminated, and I was stuck at home. And I had convinced myself that my injuries weren't that bad. And so I had a doctor's appointment that was still, I was supposed to have a diagnostic test to, they're gonna dye my arm to see, they think there's a tear in my arm structure somewhere. And the test actually got canceled due to the epidemic, because it was not a life-threatening procedure. But I still had an appointment to see the doctor, and they said actually that it was good that I came in, even though I hadn't had the diagnostic, because I was their last patient for that day before they shut down and closed the offices indefinitely due to the pandemic. And I had an MRI done of this area, my upper torso and my neck area, and I had convinced myself that I had gone to that appointment thinking that I would tell the doctor that I was fine and that he needed to release me for work so that I could get back out there and start doing my job. And sorry. He told me that I actually have a spinal injury. And there's also probably a tear in my arm, so I actually have damage to my spine. And the other problem is that during the epidemic, there's really not a lot that they can do. So there's no telling when I'll be able to return to work. So, you know, it's been hard. And then things just keep getting worse, because I have mentioned my child a couple of times, and you saw him on my Valentine's Day special video. For those of you who have subscribed to the channel and have seen my Valentine's Day special, you've met my son, my handsome son. I share time with my son, with his dad. And he had gone to visit his dad when they were exposed to a person that was diagnosed with COVID-19. And my son was put into quarantine. He's almost, at the time of this video, his quarantine is almost finished, and my son and his dad and his stepmom and his half-brother, they have not developed symptoms of the COVID-19 virus, so I'm really grateful for that. But that's something that I want to talk about, is that there are so many people out there that are thinking that this epidemic is not an epidemic and it's not a big deal, and that they don't know anyone that's had the COVID-19 virus. And I'm here to tell you that, as I mentioned, my son has a half-brother. Well, his half-brother's babysitter was the person that was diagnosed with COVID-19. This was a young girl who lives in the city of Chicago, who has not traveled overseas. And this poor girl is now suffering with COVID-19. And she didn't do anything. She just was living her life, and she got the virus. I don't know how she is. I hope she's okay, because even if she survives, this is a terrible, terrible illness. And she is probably in significant pain. And I don't know the circumstances of her family, but her family has also been exposed, and her family might be suffering with this virus. So I do know someone who has been affected personally by this virus. And I've been alone for these past 2 weeks, barely able to care for myself, and at the same time wondering if my one and only child, the light of my life, was gonna get this terrible plague. It's a big deal. And it's scary. And I know that I just said that I wanted to go back out there, that I wanted to do my job. I wanted to be useful. This is serious. And you know what? We do need to stay at home. We do. We need to protect ourselves as much as we can. And I thought, when I was contemplating the fact that I was unable to be out there with my coworkers and doing my job and protecting people and keeping people safe, and I thought to myself, I'm at home and I'm safe. Already practicing social distancing, because when I got injured, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. The only places that I've gone is to various doctor's appointments. That's it. So I'm like the healthiest person in Chicago with my bum arm and spinal injury. And it got me to thinking, that it was almost a good thing that I got injured, because I wasn't going to get sick, because I can't be exposed. There's no one to expose me to the virus. And that kind of leads me into, everybody's trying to understand why this is happening. a lot of people think that everything happens for a reason, and I really don't believe that. I do not believe that everything happens for a reason, because you know what? My son's brother's babysitter, the young lady that has the COVID-19 virus, who is fighting for her life right now, there is no reason that that girl needed to have that. There is no reason for that. Sometimes terrible things happen to amazing people. That young girl is a good girl. She is just beginning her life. And she did not deserve that. She does not deserve COVID-19. No way. There is no reason for that. But you know what? It happened to her. And it's awful. And it's terrible. So there is no way that you're going to convince me that that happened for a reason. And, you know, you could try to tell me that I got injured, and I got injured in a really nasty way. I'm not even going to go into it, but it was just, I'm a police officer, so I'll just leave that there, and you can figure out how I got injured. Anyway. But I'm sure that there are some people out there that are saying, you know what, you got injured so that you could be safe. And nope, I don't believe that. You know what? I have a dangerous job, and sometimes my coworkers and we get injured. And it just happens. Because it just is. It's just part of the world that we live in. But here's the thing. There is connection. There is meaning. So I can take what happened to me, and I can look at my injury, and I can look at the pain that I'm experiencing, and I can say, I can see the connection. I can see that I am safe from the virus because I got injured. I can see that connection. I can. But that doesn't mean that I got injured so that I would be safe later. I don't think anything orchestrated that. But they are connected. And when I started accepting that, when I realized how safe I was in my isolation of being alone and caring for myself and not binging on Netflix, because all I could barely do was use my left thumb to turn on my devices to watch Netflix. I really appreciated my situation. It didn't really make the pain any better. I wasn't appreciating my pain, but what I mean is I was appreciating the fact that I was going to live. I was going to live. And the other thing is that with my injury, I'm on workman's comp right now. And I'm on workman's comp on a job that is necessary. So I know that so many people out there are struggling so much right now because they've been locked into isolation, into social distancing, and things are closing. And I know how lucky I am. I know how lucky I am. And I'm here to tell you, though, I know it's challenging, and I'm sorry, but it's so important. It is so important that you maintain distance right now. And be grateful that you're alive. And a lot of people think that magic is what you believe, and that's not true. Magic is what you do. So I do think that now is the time for prayers, and now is the time for meditation, and now is the time to consider those pathways of connection. But we need to do more. We need to do. And that can be as simple as picking up the telephone and checking on people. Calling your grandparents and your uncles and your cousins across the world and making sure that they're okay. And if you are in a position like myself where you are still getting an income, maybe we need to take some of that income and put it aside and start donating it to organizations like the Red Cross and food banks and things, so that people who are less fortunate are getting some relief from those who are more fortunate. Magic is what you do. So in addition to your prayers, you need to manifest something. You need to do something. Even if all you're doing is making a phone call to check on people. And it's interesting because I knew when I started my depth year in 2020, I really knew that I wanted to use the 12 houses of geomancy as my themes for each of the 12 months. So I knew that March was going to be the month of communication. And so I had some plans where I was going to do some traveling, and I was going to visit people in person, and I wanted to visit my college girlfriend in North Carolina, and I wanted to visit a friend that I have in Pennsylvania, and I was going to continue my series on American Fae and coincide all of these visits and bring you those indigenous species from those particular states in the United States. And that's how I was going to manifest communication in the month of March for you. And unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen with or without the pandemic, because I was injured right after Valentine's Day, as a matter of fact. And I have to admit that when I got injured in February, my plans for February's depth year focus of money just really went down the toilet. I had all these visions of I was going to really delve into my finances and track where I was going to do money and things. And these are things I enjoy. Like, I really enjoy, like, tracking where I spend things and monitoring things and that kind of stuff. And I didn't do any of that because I was just so focused on being unable to work and really struggling with a lot of pain and really not having the dexterity to put makeup on my face, let alone set up a video camera. So I kind of lost that in the month of February. And the other thing is I stopped getting dressed. I could barely shower. It was terrible. I really couldn't even do that. And so I would wear my pajamas. It was just tragic. It was just so sad. So we'll just move forward from that. Move forward. But obviously the time, I needed the time away from my work because I really had to focus on healing my body. And so as you can see, I am wearing makeup, and my hair is not quite styled the way it's a little rough. It's not quite the way I would like to have it, but it's good enough considering. I can clasp a necklace, although it have to rest after I do that. It's kind of sad. But I am better. I'm much better. And it really was the time that I needed, and I didn't want to give it time. Time. We need time to heal. So So I know that you're suffering in isolation right now, but I'm telling you, it's important, and we need this time to heal. But when I did start feeling a little bit better, one of the first things that I did, like I said, is I talked about the gratitude. But it was that gratitude that propelled me forward. And so I went back to my habit that I had established in January. And I have the Llewellyn Almanac, the Witch's Almanac for 2020, and one of the things that they do in their calendar is that they give a color of the day. And so one of the things I was doing is I was dressing with a color of the day. And because at depth here, it's really about trying to go deep with the things that you have. So with January being, the theme being the self, is that I really focused on clothing and trying to use my clothes completely and putting together outfits that I wouldn't normally have put together in the past, and really trying to make use of my jewelry and things like that. And so I took back that habit, and I started getting up, and I started showering the best that I could, and I started putting clothes on, getting out of my pajamas and putting on actual clothes. And even though I wasn't going out in the world, is to dress in clothes that made me feel strong and beautiful and complete and whole. So that was something that really helped me, was going back to the depth here. And then I did go back and analyze my finances, and I made some interesting revelations there. And I realized that I have a hard time with abundance. Is that I often feel that, why me? Why do I have all that I have when so many other people are suffering? And it just makes me feel so small and so undeserving. And I really had to delve deep into that and going, like I said, magic is not about what you believe, it's about what you do. It's about doing something. It's about donating $5 if that's all you have to donate. It's about, and if you don't have the money, about sharing a video, about promoting a donation campaign if you can't physically donate yourself. And sharing an abundant, maybe I've been given abundance so that I can share it. And maybe that's part of my life journey, is learning how to shoulder abundance. Maybe that's the meaning that I'm supposed to learn. And then going into March and trying to deal with my communication. And what I started doing is I started writing again. Back in November, I had an amazing experience where I did National Novel Writing Month, and it was just such an enlightening experience, and I just was so charged, and it just changed everything for me in that moment. And so I went back to that, and I started delving into that again and committing to writing every day, and that was really something that made a difference for me. We just have to persevere. We have to allow the world to heal. And I know it's hard, and if you're struggling out there, I invite you to share in the comments your struggles. Share them with us here on YouTube so that we can shoulder some of that burden with you, so that we can stay connected. But it's so important. We've got to come together right now. We've got to come together by not being together. I'm very sorry that I was gone. And I thought to myself, oh, I have such a small following, nobody's going to miss me. And that's such a selfish thing that I did, wasn't it? Oh, nobody will, who cares? I have such a small following, nobody's going to miss me. This is such a selfish thing. Isn't it so clear right now how much we miss each other, isn't it? So I'm sorry that I was gone, and I'm back, and I'm gonna be here, and with my rabbit, with baby Bunny. I can't protect you right now, but I'll do everything I can to serve you. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for tuning to this video and dealing with my sappiness. And I want you to know that I'm here for you. And we can persevere. We are going to get through this. It's going to take some time, though. And it's not... This is serious. It's like I said, I had it in my head that my injury wasn't serious, and then I found out that it was pretty serious. This is serious. We can't ignore that anymore. And we have to be there for each other. That's the beauty of 2020, is that we have all this amazing technology that allows us to remain connected. So, if you are struggling, please let me share the burden with you. Let me serve you. And with that, I love you. Have a very full day.